discriminating gamer. The board game review show that hates communism. I'm sorry, I do. It's terrible. Karl Marx is the evil Santa Claus. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of revolutions, today we're going to take a look at a game that's all about witches, the American Revolution, called Witches of the Revolution from Atlas Games. In Witches of the Revolution from Atlas Games, 1 to 4 players take on the roles of various witches during the American Revolution as they attempt to help the colonists, the Americans, overcome British tyranny. It's a kind of an interesting theme. Let's see how it plays. Now, this deck builder comes with a game board. The game board has a lot of different spaces and a lot of different information on it. You're going to have different tracks, you're going to have places for your cards, and so on and so forth. First of all, each player is going to receive 15 secret cards. These are your starter cards, your opening cards, your opening deck, and they've got kind of 2 kinds of currency on them. First of all, they have got stars and circles, which are kind of what you're going to use to recruit cards with, and then you've also got symbols, which is what you're going to use to defeat the events that come out that are going to try to defeat you. So each player is going to get one of those. You're also going to set on the board a recruit deck, which is going to have 3 spaces that's going to move along that you can buy cards from. You're going to have the event deck at the bottom, which will move along the track as well. Now, up at the top, you're going to place 4 randomly selected from their specific types of objective cards. These objective cards are things you're going to have to try to. These are kind of your goal. In order to win the game, you have to essentially get all 4 of these objective cards. Beneath the objective cards, you're going to have a number of symbols based on what they say on the cards. Now, again, these can be the cat's heads, these could be stars, these could be skulls, and all sorts of things, and moons that you can take these tokens when you defeat objective cards. More on that later. Now, every player draws a hand of 5 cards. In a solo game, 6 cards. Now, what you do is you go ahead, you shuffle the cards randomly, you get them into your hand, and then you begin the game. Now, at the beginning of a turn, you're going to go ahead and lay out a recruit card and slide the existing recruit cards kind of the recruit discard pile. First turn, of course, you don't do that because you've already got the recruit cards out there. Then what you are going to do is draw an event from the event deck. Now, again, this is kind of the British fighting against the colonists, and you kind of have to go ahead and move against that. But what you're going to do is, as these event cards come out and they slide across the track, the event track, different things are going to happen. Now, as soon as a card is revealed, it's going to have some condition that comes out with that card. It can do all sorts of funky things. It may tell a player or multiple players they have to discard cards or banish cards, essentially put them in the recruit discard pile, or all sorts of things like that. Now, some of the event cards will have a Liberty bell on it. If a card with the Liberty bell hits, I think it's the 2nd, 4th, and 6th spaces on the track, you have to drop the Liberty track marker. If you ever defeat one of these cards, the Liberty track marker goes up 2, which is nice. But the Liberty track is important because if it ever gets to 0, that's a losing condition, but as it falls, you're going to get some negative conditions there with regard to recruiting. Now, after you draw the event deck and you start sliding them, then you can do a recruit action, which essentially you can recruit cards from the recruit area by paying the number of those little circle stars on, paying the cost of one of those circle stars on the recruit card. Now, here's the thing, however, you don't necessarily you don't discard those cards in your discard deck that you use to spend it. You essentially put them into the recruit discard pile. Essentially, you get rid of those cards in order to grab one of those more powerful cards. So that's an interesting mechanic there. But you go ahead, you spend that, and then, of course, depending on where it is in the recruit track, there's going to be some different conditions that may lower the costs of those cards. As the Liberty track goes down, there may be conditions on the Liberty track which kind of negates those kind of benefits that can happen with those card reduction costs. Now, after you've recruited a card, or before, it doesn't matter the order you do it in, you can act. If you act, you are moving against one of the Liberty, or one of the event cards. Now, how that works is every card has a number of symbols on it. Now, you have to play a card that has a number of symbols equal to the symbols you're seeing on the card, the event you're fighting against. If you can do that, you go ahead and defeat that card, place it in the kind of discard pile for the events, And then whatever symbol was on there, you can take one of those symbols from beneath an appropriate objective card. And that's how you're going to kind of whittle down those objective cards. Now, as soon as you get all of the symbols off of one objective card, you get the boon from that objective, you flip that objective card over, and you're one step closer to victory. Now, after you do that, after you kind of act with the event cards, and other players can help other players, they can essentially assist players with some of their cards to help you defeat them, and you can do that on your turn or on other players' turn with other players. Then what you do is you essentially can draw cards up to your hand size, back up to 5 cards. You don't necessarily have to, and you may not want to, because every time you shuffle your deck, every time you get rid of your deck and shuffle it, you have to move the moon marker up 1 phase. Now, this is because it's over the course of the night, and the witches become less powerful as the sun comes out. So what that means is you're going to find the cards you're trying to defeat in the event deck become more powerful. You have to add numbers of symbols to the existing symbols on there as that moon marker moves up. So the game becomes more and more difficult every time somebody shuffles one of their decks. And before you draw, you even have the option of discarding cards if you want to, but again, that can make your hand a little, you can get rid of those weaker cards, but again, you're going to be shuffling more often, so that may not be the best course of action. So you go around and around doing these steps, trying to defeat the event decks, trying to recruit more cards, and of course, trying to complete those objectives. I should say, too, when you get the objective tokens, they're trophies that you can then spend to help you defeat events and help you do some other things, so they can be very helpful, too. But the game ends in a few ways. First of all, you win the game by completing those 4 objective decks there. It's a cooperative game. You all win together. You lose the game if ever the Liberty track gets all the way to Tyranny. If it drops all the way to the bottom, you lose the game. If ever all of the cards get pushed into kind of a losing spot for the number of players, you lose the game. And if ever you get through the event deck and you put out an event card, then of course you lose the game. If that's the last card that comes out, you lose there as well. I should point out too, recruit. If you get the recruit deck is empty, that just means you can't recruit more cards. It's not the end of the game, but that's it. But essentially, again, you're trying to complete those 4 objectives, and if you can do that, you win Witches of the Revolution. So there's a few other little things going on in this game. That's just a basic overview of Witches of the Revolution. What did I think of this game? I really liked a lot of the mechanics here. I liked the fact that this is a very unusual deck builder in the sense that, in most deck builders, you're kind of eager to reshuffle because there's all the possibilities of all the great cards you can draw. And here you're kind of reluctant. You don't want to shuffle because it's going to make cards more dangerous and more deadly, those events that come out, and harder to solve. So that is a very interesting thing I've not seen from a deck builder before. This idea of hand management becomes really more crucial than I've ever seen it in a deck builder before. The way the cards are sliding across the board is very reminiscent to me, of course, of Legendary. It really reminded me of Legendary, which I like a lot. But that's kind of where the similarities end there as far as Legendary goes. The game, it's got some of these really great, interesting, and fun mechanics. It's got some interesting, some text on the cards and some things that can come out too are kind of fun and interesting. But the game too kind of devolves into that area where it kind of starts to feel a little mathy. Again, there's not really math in it, but with the symbols, I just don't have the symbols I need. I can't do anything. And it kind of gets there. And you've got that can kind of be obviated when you assist cards and with other players, but I got to confess I haven't played a multiplayer game. I've just played the solo game. And so I think that's kind of overcome a little bit where you can trade cards. But again, I haven't played that. That's just my feeling there, that kind of obviates that. The game's theme, it's an interesting theme and kind of a fun theme, but it never really kind of shines through. I never really felt like the game itself was terribly thematic. Interesting to be sure, kind of some fun artwork, but not really terribly thematic. So that was kind of a little disappointment for me. Now, also, too, the cardstock is not the best cardstock. These are not the best cards. They're not horrible, but they're just... I would have liked them a little heavier. I would have liked that. So, all told, this is kind of a mixed bag. It's got some really fun things, and if you're somebody who really likes deck builders and you really like new and innovation in deck builders, check this one out. You'll get a kick out of it. for a more casual player, I just don't know if this is going to scratch a particular itch, especially where we've got so many great deck builders out there right now. This one just feels like it's good and it's interesting, but I don't know that it's enough that it's something you're going to want to have in your collection. So the recommendation here is try it before you buy it. I think some people will get a kick out of it. I don't know that it's going to be for everybody. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer. And ladies and gentlemen, if you ask me, there was only one real witch of the American Revolution, and that was Peggy Shippen. Peggy Shippen. Benedict Arnold's wife. Loyalist to the crown. Traitor to her country. Peggy Shippen. What a witch. And something else that rhymes with witch. A snitch. Because I'm sure she snitched a lot too on people.